My name is Mark Krikorian. I'm Executive Director of the Center for Immigration Studies, a think tank here in town that examines and critiques the impact of immigration on the United States. The report we're releasing today is something that reporters have talked a lot about. People get a lot of sense that they think some illegal immigrants are going home because of enforcement, but this is really the first solid evidence, the first actual data that demonstrates that something, in fact, is happening. It's prepared by our Director of Research, Stephen Camerata, and our demographer, Karen Jensenius. Steve will come up and give an overview of the report, which is online at our site. It should be by now at cis.org. And then we'll have a comment by Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama. And we hope at least a couple of House members who are now on the floor voting. But we'll see which of them are able to come, and we'll interrupt things if they do end up getting here. But first, Steve will speak, and then the Senator will give some reactions, and then we'll play it by ear after that. Steve?
This does create quite an echo. Can you hear me okay? Maybe I'll try moving it a little farther away. Maybe reduce that a little bit. It's not going to let me do that. Okay. As Mark said, my name is Steve Camerata. I am Director of Research at the Center for Immigration Studies. I am the lead author of the report we are releasing today. Karen Jensenius is my co-author of the report. Now, there is widespread agreement that until recently, immigration laws have been largely unenforced within the United States. However, there's a long-standing debate over whether enforcing immigration laws would significantly reduce the number of illegal immigrants in the country. Some have argued that because illegal aliens are so firmly attached to their lives here, that actually enforcing the law would not significantly reduce the numbers. It is also argued that the desire to emigrate to the United States is so strong, enforcement could not deter illegal immigrants from coming. The study we are releasing today tries to explore that question, see what's been happening based on the latest data, and sort of test that hypothesis. The study examines the number of less educated young Hispanic immigrants in the country. Based on research by the Department of Homeland Security, the former INS, Census Bureau, the Pew Hispanic Center, as well as my own research, we estimate that about 80% of these young, foreign-born Hispanics who are less educated are illegal aliens. These young, less educated, foreign-born Hispanics can be seen as the likely illegal immigrant population. To examine this population, we use monthly data collected by the U.S. Census Bureau. We take a 3-month moving average in what is called the Current Population Survey. The findings show clear evidence that the legal immigrant population has declined significantly in recent months. Now, the figures over here to my farther right show the number of adult immigrants in millions living in the United States each month between January 2005 and May of this year. The bottom line shows the likely illegal immigrant population, that is, less educated Hispanics between the ages of 18 and 40 years of age. The top line shows all other adult immigrants. We do not include children in this analysis because we feel very strongly that children will basically follow the migration decisions of their parents, that is, foreign-born children anyway. As you can see, after hitting a peak last summer, that's where it says amnesty fails, the number shows a significant decline in the illegal immigrant population through May of this year. But only the illegal population seems to be declining. The legal immigrant population is unaffected, or seemingly unaffected, continuing to increase. Now, the decline between August 2007 and May of this year in the likely illegal population is about 800,000, roughly speaking, or 11%. Now, one interesting finding in that figure to my far left is that the illegal immigrant population seems to have ticked up, grown somewhat, if you will, during the debate over legalization or amnesty last year. And the figures show that after the amnesty failed, the numbers begin to fall pretty quickly. So you might refer to that as kind of the amnesty hump. People heard about the legalization, they thought it might pass. People who may have been thinking about going home said, let me take a wait-and-see approach, and maybe more people come in. But it probably, we think, had a much bigger effect on people already here. Now, of course, not all illegal immigrants are included in Census Bureau data. Though most research suggests that about 90% of illegal aliens do respond to surveys like the Current Population Survey or the American Community Survey and so forth. This is how the government estimates the illegal population as well from these data sources. But if we adjust for those not counted in the far figure, it produces the results in the nearer figure over here. The numbers for between January of 2000 and for January 2006 are from the Department of Homeland Security. We then adjust those numbers, assuming the ratio remained the same between the less educated Hispanic population and the illegal population, and that produces the results. So it indicates that by August of 2007, sort of the peak, the illegal population seems to have grown to about 12.5 million, and then that number began to decline significantly and now stands at more like 11.2 million, about a 1.3 million decline. So the things to take away from that is that there was a significant decline in the illegal alien population, based on our best estimates. However, the illegal alien population remains very large. Now, it's important to understand that the figures show only our total estimate for the number of illegal immigrants in the country. The observed decline must be due to some combination of illegal immigrants leaving versus the number coming. Now, in the report, we discussed the issue of in-migration versus out-migration in much greater detail. But overall, we find that most of the fall-off seems to have been caused by a significant increase in the number of people here going home. If you will, out-migration seems to explain these results. In-migration also fell, but the more dramatic change seems to have been in out-migration. Remember, there's always a lot of churn, people coming, people going, a small number, very small number, who die in any human population, but mainly it's the numbers coming and going. There are no births, of course, that are illegal in the United States. Children born in the United States are awarded U.S. citizenship and so are not illegal aliens. Now, what caused this decline? Well, this really is the $64 question. Well, the two main factors that might explain this decline are increased immigration enforcement and the economy. In the report, we argue that enforcement seems to have played a significant role in causing this decline. Now, one indication that stepped-up enforcement is responsible for what we see over here on my left is that only the illegal immigrant population seems to be affected, as I pointed out. Legal immigrants, who are still subject to the same economic forces, seems to continue to grow. Another indication enforcement is causing decline is that the illegal immigrant population began falling before there was a significant rise in the unemployment of illegal aliens, and that's really important. If it was the case that the economy was driving people out of the country, we would expect unemployment to rise and then people to leave. And in fact, in the report, we look at historical data. You can see the long-term trend if you have the report in Figure 4. In general, that shows that the illegal population declines after a jump in unemployment. That's not what's happened. The current trend is a complete break with anything in the past. And that is strong evidence that increased enforcement is playing a role. The importance of enforcement is also suggested by the fact that the current decline is already larger than a decline during the last recession, and officially the country has not even entered a recession. As I said, we also in the report go back 8 years to January 2000. Again, you can see that in Figure 4. And again, the current pattern is different. We see this decline before a rise in unemployment, and that's why we think, one of the reasons we think that enforcement has played a really important role. That enforcement has increased cannot be disputed. The Department of Homeland Security has been doing a great deal more to enforce the law. For example, the share of the U.S. border that has a fence has increased significantly in the last 18 months. The number of Border Patrol agents has doubled in recent years. The number of detention beds used to hold illegal aliens in general has more than doubled. The number of local law enforcement personnel trained in immigration enforcement has increased dramatically in just the last year. The number of aliens removed, which includes deportations, has increased significantly as well. The E-Verify program, which allows employers to screen workers to see if they are authorized to work in the country, now covers about 1 out of every 10 new people hired in this country. In fact, it's a little higher than 1 in 10. Worksite enforcement has seen some of the largest increases, with the number of criminal and administrative arrests increasing more than 5-fold since 2004. Now, in many ways, these efforts are still quite modest and represent large relative increases over what were very modest levels of enforcement in the past. Nevertheless, they do constitute a more comprehensive and a robust approach to enforcement, both at the border and perhaps most importantly within the United States. Now, let me conclude by just saying that the overall findings of this report are again straightforward. The illegal immigrant population is declining, and enforcement seems to have played a significant role in that process. Now, it is sometimes argued that illegal aliens are so permanently attached to their lives in the United States that no amount of enforcement would ever make a large share of them return to their home countries. Recent trends seem to contradict this view. The evidence presented here indicates it has been possible to cut the illegal alien population by increasing significantly the number of illegals leaving the country. In fact, if the current trend were sustained and the illegal immigrant population was reduced by 11% for, say, 5 years, it could cut the total illegal immigrant population, if we did that year in and year out, 11% a year, it would cut the total illegal immigrant population in half within about 5 years. Now, of course, this study says nothing about whether the drop in illegal immigration is desirable. Our own view at the Center for Immigration Studies is that more muscular enforcement of immigration laws is a vital part of any meaningful reform of our immigration system. However, some may feel that enforcement is not the right approach for dealing with illegal immigration. But whatever one's views on illegal immigration, the findings of this report show strong evidence that the illegal population has fallen significantly since last summer. Now, there is absolutely no way to know whether current trends will continue. In recent weeks, both presidential candidates have repeatedly indicated their deep commitment to legalizing those in the country illegally. Now, pronouncements of this kind have consequences. When Congress was considering a legalization for illegal immigrants last summer, there is that evidence that illegal immigration actually grew. When the legislation failed to pass, the illegal population began to decline rapidly. It may be that the promises made by candidates in recent weeks will again encourage more illegal immigrants to enter or encourage those already in the country who might otherwise be thinking about leaving to stay in the hopes of being awarded legal status by some future president. In some ways, these recent pronouncements may encourage illegal immigrants to take, if you will, a wait-and-see approach. So I cannot answer the fundamental question that lots of people are asking me, is this going to continue? I just don't think we know for sure what is going to happen in the future. What I can say is the evidence is powerful and consistent that enforcement is having the desired effect. It's reducing illegal immigration. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Now, Senator Sessions is going to offer some thoughts. He's one of the leaders in the Senate on this issue, and frankly is probably one of the important reasons that Black Lines started going in the other direction last summer. So, Senator, if you had a few words.
There's one big concept that I came to understand as we went forward with the debate, and that is a lot of people just didn't believe there was anything that could be done, that anything could work, and we could not make a difference, and we might as well give up. And every time somebody proposed a solution, there would be some horror story or some objection to the solution. I used to say frequently, many of my colleagues would support anything that would not work, but they would always end up opposing whatever would work. Let me just say this. So this idea, I have come to believe in the course of the debate that we really have it within our grasp to create a lawful system of immigration in America. The lawful system of immigration is just fundamental to who we are as a people. It's unthinkable that we would accept a system of immigration which is not respected, does not work, and in fact makes a mockery of law. It's just unthinkable that we would have that. So that was my fundamental approach to it, and I think the numbers that are shown here indicate that people, most of the people, many of the people that have come to our country illegally are highly mobile, and that they can come and stay for a while, they can go back home. It's just not as big a deal as some would pick out the hardest, most difficult cases as an example of why we shouldn't even attempt to create a lawful system or to have any kind of a legal system. I would just want to point out first that an 11% decline in the population in the United States that's illegal is a very significant number, probably more significant than the number that Homeland Security has talked about, and that is in 2007, the arrests at the border fell 20%. We've increased our Border Patrol agents, we've increased fencing and barriers, we've increased our capacity to detain people. We're doing a lot better job at the border, yet the detentions are down, arrests are down 20%. As some of you probably know, it was over 1 million. So it's now over 800,000 that are being arrested, at least in 2007, to give you a sense of the numbers that we're dealing with. So I think this study is very valuable. I think it should give encouragement to those who believe that we can make a difference. It should affect policymakers who have doubts that anything we do can make any difference. I would also add a couple of other things that have occurred. The Mexican government released a survey in December that shows the deterrent effects of enforcement. According to the survey, Mexican nationals are now thinking twice about U.S. jobs. There has been a, quote, 30% drop since 2005 in the number of Mexicans looking for a job in another country or preparing to cross the border, close quote. That's a big number, too, that's confirmatory to both Homeland Security, to the Mexican government, and now the numbers that are shown here. So I think that's important. What happened? How did we get to a situation in which over 1 million people were being apprehended a year entering our country illegally? I tell you what happened. Most people in other countries are not used to the rigor with which Americans try to see their laws enforced. They don't worry about the law that's on the book. They ask what's being enforced. And we were not enforcing the laws. The President of the United States went so far as to say, basically, he didn't care who came here as long as there was a willing worker and a willing employer. I mean, that to me was a thunderous statement to the entire world that this country was not in a lawful mode of immigration. And so we went through this national debate. The Senate was shut down by phone calls, the Senate switchboard, and I believe the American people made a decision. The Congress said they got it. I think we'll see soon whether or not Congress has really truly gotten it, or whether the same forces, the same special interests, the same powers that drove this unworkable comprehensive bill will be successful in the future. But I do think the Department of Homeland Security is stepping up its effectiveness in its prosecutions and enforcement, not as rapidly as they should, and the matter will be decided in the next several years, depending on whether the president, whoever he may be, actually is committed to enforcing the law. And I think Americans need to ask the presidents with more specificity, those candidates, whether or not, what they really mean when they say they want to have lawfulness on the border. The House has done a great job on this. They've been crystal clear in their position. I'm sorry our colleagues haven't gotten here. I won't utilize senatorial filibuster and talk anymore. I'll just say you've got a great team with Lamar Smith and Heath Schuler and Tom Feeney, and I don't know who will probably be sharing with you soon their perspective. There's one issue, though, that's on the table right now. There are 4 bills that expire at the end of this fiscal year, September 30th, 4 laws that allow people to come into the country in one category or another, not large numbers, but discrete groups that qualify, and the E-Verify system. E-Verify is the system by which an employer can check with the Social Security people. They give them a Social Security number, and it comes back the name of the person that has that number, or if it's a valid number, and they can compare it with the applicant. And now we're about 12%, did you say, of employers, when they hire somebody, are using that. And it gives them a safe harbor. It protects them if they hire somebody who's not illegal. If the number came back legal, gives them some protection. It also indicates a commitment to trying to be faithful and follow the law. And in some states, like Arizona, the states require the businesses to check. But it's a growing thing, and it's working. It expires. And I just would say that's going to be a defining moment. If the Senate or the House fails to extend that bill, then all the protestations that we may hear that they intend to do something about lawfulness would be shown to be not true, because E-Verify is a critical component of our future system that will guarantee lawfulness. And I just think we have an opportunity here that's very significant. American people need to be focused on it. They need to watch their representatives and senators to make sure that the right decisions are made and that we continue the progress that is being made. Thank you, Mark.
You have a couple minutes for Q&A or not?
Okay, I would try to do my best.
Okay. Senator agreed for a couple minutes to take questions. If anybody has any questions, we have to have provoked somebody. So.
I would just say this, any kind of a debate or discussion like this, most of us don't have time to go out and crunch the numbers and census data and go through all of this. I just want to thank CIS for providing invaluable research. You can be sure the other side had plenty of money and plenty of numbers. A lot of them weren't very accurate.
And now we have some comments from Congressman Tom Feeney. He's one of the leaders in the House on this issue, has helped get the discharge petition for the SAVE Act going. So he wants to give us some thoughts on this as well. Congressman?
I just want to leave you with one message, and then I'll make a few points. It's this. Illegal immigrants aren't stupid. They react to the same incentives as anybody with a typical human nature. If you are busy trying to pass legislation that will give them amnesty, they will come and take advantage and stay as long as they think that they will be relieved of the obligation to follow the law. If you do not secure the border, they will take advantage of that. If you do not have a system that says to employers they don't need to worry about the law and they can hire illegals, illegal immigrants are not stupid. They will take advantage of our refusal to enforce our own rule of law and to protect American sovereignty. What the CIS study has done, and I really congratulate you, is basically to tie the behavior and the flow across borders. And we see that a population is deporting itself because we are willing for the first time to say America is not ready for amnesty. It's the wrong thing to do. We learned our lesson in Simpson-Mazzoli. So when Americans said loud and clear, despite the leadership in the Senate and some in the House and even in the White House, when we said loud and clear, breaking our law is not the way to come to America to share in the American dream. There is a better way to do it, and that is to follow the law. And when we said to people, we are not going to give you benefits like out-of-state tuition that an American out-of-state student would not be eligible for, they started to get the message. And when we said we're going to require employers to make sure that if you apply for a job, you are legally eligible to work in the United States, when we started enforcing that, illegal immigrants got the message. Now, one of the things this study does not show is whether or not it is just the rational employment-seeking illegals that are leaving, or whether it's some of the most horrendous criminals and abusers of our social welfare system and the people that are adding huge tax burdens. You know, we have the wrong Ramos in jail today. A border security agent, along with his colleague Campion, has been imprisoned essentially for trying to enforce the border in a horrendously dangerous situation and doing his job. We have asked repeatedly that the administration allow Mr. Ramos and Mr. Campion, one of whom was badly beaten by immigrants when he was in jail. There's another Ramos. Some of you may have read about him. He is from El Salvador. He's an illegal alien. He brutally attacked and beat a pregnant woman. He also separately committed a crime when he was a juvenile on a Muni passenger recently because the city of San Francisco refused to enforce the law and advise ICE of his illegal immigrant status when he brutally attacked this woman and this other passenger in San Francisco. Then the consequence was that this guy was freed to offend again. We have a dead father and 2 dead young men in San Francisco today for the simple refusal to enforce the law. And I don't have any more details because I understand you've been here for a while. We had votes that interrupted us. But the lesson here is that illegal immigrants are not stupid. They will take advantage of perverse incentives if we provide them for them, and if we say we're not going to enforce our own rule of law. On the other hand, if we'll stand up and do the right thing legally, protect our border, insist on our sovereignty, I think eventually we can have a safe, workable, temporary worker program that allows more people opportunities, not to take jobs that Americans have and are prepared to continue to do, but in some cases take jobs that Americans are just not able or even unwilling to do. So enforcing the law is a great message. Obviously, illegals are getting the message. With that, I'm happy to take a few questions and then turn it back over to the CIS. Thank you. I want to applaud CIS again. They've done, to my knowledge, the first comprehensive study of what it means if Americans simply stand up and say, we believe in the rule of law, and we want elected officials that will enforce the law. Thank you.
Other congressional invitees backed out, but we were happy to have one member from each house. The report's online at cis.org along with the rest of our work, and thank you for coming.